On this particular mission, in March of 2021, it was Rob and Tim's turn at the controls. And while they knew they weren't going to be the first to go that deep, well, they found a way to make history anyway.
And you hold the record for what?
For the deepest beer in history. The hard-earned thirst deserves the best cold beer. Served best at the bottom of the ocean.
Now, that was back in September when we took you to perhaps the most remote spot on the planet, Challenger Deep, at the bottom of the western Pacific Ocean, a spot deeper than Mount Everest is tall. Think about that. We were aboard the Limiting Factor, a really deep sea submersible vehicle that is the brainchild of adventurer Victor Vescovo. Now, we introduced you to him back then as well, but after meeting the guy, we decided we needed to take more of an in-depth look with Lee Cowan.
Victor Vescovo. He spent his life living somewhere between the edge of heaven and Dante's 9 circles of hell.
At bottom.
His achievements include diving to the deepest spot in all of the Earth's ocean, as well as blasting into suborbital space aboard a Blue Origin rocket. And he did all of that in the same year.
I personally have never been bored, I think, in my whole life, so there's always another challenge, another thing to push.
He looks the part of an adventurer, his blonde hair pulled back in a swashbuckling ponytail, having not quite caught up with the gray in his beard. He's a proud Texan, born and raised, who made a fortune in private equity and hasn't been shy about using his money to fulfill dreams he's had since he was a little boy.
I guess all kids grow up to want to be an adventurer or something, but so few actually do it, right?
Yeah, I think on the curiosity scale, mine's like at 11. Probably the most dangerous thing that my parents ever did was they gave me a bicycle when I was quite young, and that was it. I just went off and explored my city and all that, to the great horror of my parents.
Because they didn't know where you were?
Often no, but I always came back.
Every adventurer has their own motives for taking the road less traveled: fame, bragging rights, money. But for Vescovo, his wanderlust can really be boiled down to him being just kind of a gentle perfectionist.
If I do something, I want to be decently good at it.
When he was in his 20s, almost on a whim, he decided to climb Mount Kilimanjaro, the highest point in Africa. He did it, and that feeling got him thinking.
For me, it was just, hey, how high can I go?
To answer that question, he began making his way to the tallest mountains on all 7 continents. One by one, he conquered them, including the tallest of them all, Mount Everest. Not the hardest, he says, but it was the most frustrating.
I got about halfway up to Camp 2, and I got frostbite on my hands, and it would only have gotten worse the higher I went. It would have put me and my teammates at risk. So sometimes you just have to accept the reality and say it's just not your time.
What's the point of exploring, he says, if you don't come back to tell the tale?
I'm not reckless. I'm very judicious in how I assess risk, and then I do what I can to mitigate it. And I think that's why I'm still here.
He did return to Everest. On his second attempt, he did make it to the summit. Vescovo also skied to both poles, north and south, putting him among the very few who have achieved the explorer's grand slam.
Achieving records is nice. It's recognition, but it's not the real motivation.
Instead, he says he's driven by a sense of the possible. True, he has the money to make the possible more likely, but that's still no guarantee. When he first set off to conquer the ocean depths, he had to build his own submersible to do it. Once he realized what he had, it opened even more exploring opportunities, like trying to see if he could find the deepest shipwreck in the world.
It's the smallest wreck you could probably try and find.
The USS destroyer escort known as the Sammy B sank in 1944 over some of the deepest water in the Philippine Sea. No one had even tried to look for her before, but Vescovo found her sitting on a ledge.
It's so cool because even just 25 meters away, you see nothing but ocean. And then relatively quickly, you can just start to make out the faint outlines of something that is not organic and not rock. And then you start seeing the unexploded ordnance and munitions on board, and you're going, okay, I need to step back a little bit.
Perhaps not surprisingly, he's been down to the Titanic, too. A dark, solitary, and sobering visit.
That was really special, though, being in my own submersible, being able to be at the Titanic and just think about all the tales. Yeah, just me in the wreck.
If you think he's done it all, well, He points out there's still Mars, and author Jules Verne even imagined a journey to the center of the Earth. Victor Vescovo says he would sign up for both. He's confident that the reward of discovery will always outweigh the risk of not being interested enough to even look.
That, I believe, is what makes us human. That is why we have the position we do on this planet. We have the ability to invent technology and to train ourselves to allow us to go to places where we have no business going. But that is the essential quality of being human.
For CBS Saturday Morning, I'm Lee Cowan, at sea in the Western Pacific.
I respect what he's doing. I just, part of me says, can we solve the problems of the world before we go off planet?
Sure, but what better to do with your money but push limits, explore, and see what's out there.
And I love that he's
there.
so enthusiastic about it. But let's get our act together.
Here on the surface.
Yeah, right.